Hello my dear students, welcome to IMS Gate Academy. My dear students, in these 6 months or 1 year, you have prepared for the GATE exam. So first of all the best for GATE exam. So my dear students, when I talk about revision, every time remember short notes, formula sheet and also previous year GATE questions. Important points are very important. So as part of this activity, we at IMS Gate Academy YouTube channel proudly say that we are starting the smart revision on the topic surveying today. So in this smart revision topic, I'll be covering the entire survey formula sheets in 2 sessions, today and also tomorrow. My dear students, this revision session will help you a lot and it will help you to brush up all the formulas. And we at IMS Gate Academy provides offline gate coaching at Bangalore and also at Vijayawada. We provide 800 plus hours of gate coaching. We provide my plan sessions, doubt solving portal, exercise book, previous year gate questions and all. So let us quickly start the session, students. I don't want to waste your time. Surveying has a weightage of 4 marks in gate exam. This revision will help you to memorize the formulas. This is the only agenda. So my dear students, let us start with the topic photogrammetry. Let us start with the topic photogrammetry. We'll be discussing the important formulas in photogrammetry. So my dear students, when I talk about photogrammetry, so what are the important formulas you have? Okay. So what do you mean by photogrammetry means? Actually, see students, if you want to measure distance between 2 points, we used to use chain. Then if you want to find the inclined distance, we used to have compass. If you want to find out the vertical angles, then you used to find theodolite. If you want to automate all these things, you used to have a total station. But photogrammetry means by using the application of unmanned aerial vehicles, you will be capturing the photos, right? So this is nothing but photogrammetry means it is the art of science of obtaining reliable information about physical objects by the process of recording, measuring and interpreting the photos. My dear students, in photogrammetry, in last 3 years, we are seeing a important question from scale of a photograph. So can anyone comment in the chat box, what do you mean by scale of a photograph, sir? What do you mean by scale of a photograph? Suppose, my dear students, if you talk about a scale of a map, it is map distance by ground distance. Similarly, what do you mean by scale of a photograph? Scale of a photograph is nothing but photo distance upon ground distance, my dear students. Scale of a photograph is defined as photo distance upon ground distance. This is an important first formula I would like to add. Scale of a photograph is defined as photo distance upon ground distance. Agree, my dear students? So this is the formula for scale of a photograph. And now, my dear students, in scale of a photograph, we have different case. Okay. Suppose, see students, if the ground surface is plane, okay, and you are taking a photographs from here, okay, and here see students, if we consider this as the optical center of the photo, or you can say optical center, and if I consider this as what we call this as focal length f, and the distance from the ground to the center of the camera is known as what, sir? Flying height. This is called as flying height. Now my dear students, let me tell you one thing. If I consider these 2 points in a photograph, it can be small a and small b, and the points on the ground can be capital A and capital B. From this, see students, what is a scale of a photograph? A scale of a photograph is nothing but photo distance upon ground distance. AB represents, small ab represents the photo distance and capital AB represents the ground distance. Now, by the principle of symmetry, similar triangle concept, we can say that scale can be written as F upon H. So this formula is applicable. Scale is equal to F upon H. Formula is applicable when the ground surface is planar. And remember here, see students, here if I talk about capital H is called as what, sir? Capital H is known as flying height. My dear students, what factors flying height depends upon? Actually, flying height is given by the formula C factor into contour interval. How do you find out flying height, sir? Usually, what should be the height of the camera from where the photographs have to be taken? You have to remember that flying height is given by the formula C factor into contour interval. And remember, my dear students, here the C factor varies from 500 to 1500, and it depends upon the map compilation process. And remember, my dear students, here we say that the ground surface is planar. Suppose in the other case, we have one building here. My dear students, we have a building here, and now on top of a building, you are trying to find out the scale. Again, in this case, if you consider this as flying height capital H, and this is the height of an object. It can be a tower, it can be a building or anything. And this we call it as focal length. And this length will be equal to how much, sir? This will be equal to h minus small h. Now, according to the similar triangle concept, my dear student, here scale can be written as, f upon h minus small h. So, this is the formula when you are standing on top of a building or top of a house or anything. Okay. So, the first formula I would like to tell you is scale of a photograph is nothing but photo distance upon ground distance. For case 1, when the ground surface is planar, it is f upon h, where f indicates the focal length, f upon h minus h when you are standing on top of a tower or a building. And in the other case, if the ground surface is irregular, so my dear students, what will be the scale formula here is, scale formula will be taken as f upon h minus h average, where h average indicates the average elevation of the terrain. What, sir? What h average indicates? It is the average elevation of the terrain. My dear students, this scale of photograph is very, very important when you see the conversion of photo coordinates to ground coordinates or ground coordinates to photo coordinates. So, please have a glance of these three formulas. Scale is equal to f upon h, scale is equal to f upon h minus h, scale is equal to f upon h minus h average. I hope everyone is clear about the scale formula. Now, let me go to the most important concept in photogrammetry, that we call it as relief displacement. Now, my dear students, we have a topic called relief displacement. Immediately, what do you mean by relief displacement, my dear students? What is the formula for relief displacement? Now, why do you want to study about relief displacement? These can be the questions. Now, relief displacement is nothing but the lateral shift of the image. What, sir? Relief displacement is nothing but the lateral shift of the image, or it is the difference in radial distances to the top and bottom of the image. This is known as relief displacement. Using the concept of relief displacement, my dear students, we can find the height of a tower, height of a building. So, my dear students, let me show you the diagram here. Suppose if you consider this as the flying height, and if you have a tower here, if you have a transmission tower or a building or anything. Now, my dear students, this is the radial distance at top, and if I consider this as the radial distance as bottom. Okay. Now, see students, if I consider this as a photograph, okay, here we call this as principal center, principal point. The radial distance to the bottom we can take it as R1, and the radial distance to the top we can take it as R2. Okay. Now, see students, what do you mean by relief displacement? Here relief displacement delta R can be taken as R2 minus R1. Remember, my dear students, if there is no relief displacement means these 2 points will coincide. That means there is no height of tower. Okay, are you getting, my dear students? So here, why do you want to study about relief displacement? Relief displacement is used to find the height of a tower or a building. Here delta R is nothing but R2 minus R1. Again and again, my dear students, please remember R2 is the radial distance at the top. R1 is the radial distance at the bottom. So delta R is nothing but the relief displacement. Very good, Swetanshu, very good. So here delta R can be taken as from from the similar triangle concept. Delta R can be taken as R1 into H upon capital H. Now my dear students, let me tell you what is R1, sir? Sorry, R2 here. It can be taken as R2 here. So what is R2? R2 is the radial distance at top. In some cases, if I take radial distance at bottom as R2, then it will be R1. Remember, R2 means radial distance at top. And what is small h, sir? Small h is nothing but the height of the tower. Capital H is known as the flying height. So, if the relief displacement increases, or if you say flying height increases, relief displacement decreases. If the height of a tower or a building increases, relief displacement increases. So, relief displacement is inversely proportional to flying height and it is directly proportional to the height of a tower or a building. Now, my dear students, there can be the same formula, but in some cases, if the tower sits at here with an elevation of HA or something above the ground, okay? If it is at, sir, see what we have done in this case, the tower is located on the ground, but here the tower is located at a distance HA, at an elevation of HA from the ground, then this formula, relief displacement, can be taken as delta R is equal to R2 into height of the tower upon H minus height of elevation above the ground. So these are very, very important formulas, my dear students. Remember always, delta R is nothing but relief displacement. Relief displacement is nothing but lateral shift of the image, or it is the distance in radius, or it is the radial distance at top and bottom of the image. Through relief displacement, height of a tower, height of an object can be known. These are the applications of relief displacement. Relief displacement have the formula R2 into H upon capital H, where capital H is the flying height, small h is the height of the tower, R2 is the radial distance at top. And this formula is applicable when the tower or a building is located at an elevation above the ground, then this formula will come into picture. Using these formulas, you can pretty easily solve the previous year gate questions. And remember, my dear students, we at IMS Gate Academy proudly say that we have classified the questions into level 1, level 2, level 3. Why these formulas will applicable is, remember students, whenever you are writing some gate exam, if you have read 10 subjects at a time, you will not be able to remember the formulas immediately. In that case, try to write the given data in a paper. Using the terms written in the paper, definitely the formula which you want to highlight, that will come into your mind. So in this way, you have to be productive. And remember, whatever I am writing in this, you try to keep a note of only the formulas which I am keeping in a box. Okay. Now let us go quickly into the next point. That is, how do you calculate the number of photos? How do you calculate the number of photographs? Sir, this is a very important thing. Sir, how do you calculate the number of photographs? This is simple, my dear student. Suppose, see here, what I would like to tell you here is, here I want to tell you one thing, sir. Suppose this is a ground area, okay? Suppose this is a ground area, sir, and we have, suppose this is the area of, sir, see, what I would like to tell you here is, now my dear students, this is the entire ground area. If I consider this as the ground area, where you have to do photogrammetry, I'll take ground area as capital A, and this is small a, which is taken as area of photo, area of each photo, okay, area of each photo. Now my dear students, let me tell you, how do you calculate the number of photos? Sir, most of the people will have to understand this sum. Number of photos is given by the formula. Number of photos is given by the formula capital A upon small a. Here what I would like to tell you here is, what do you mean by capital A, sir? Capital A is nothing but ground area. What is small a? Area of each photo. Sir, Swetanshu and all my dear students, there will be so many students who will be not taking this as serious. Why? Because they will substitute ground area in kilometer square and small area in centimeter or anything. Remember, sir, if it is a number, if you are dividing both the things, both should be in same units. You have to convert the area of photo into ground units. Are you getting my point, my dear students? When you are telling some ratio, the numerator and denominator should be in same units. Here capital A indicates the ground area and small a indicates the area of each photo. So here what I would like to tell you is, both ground area and small area of small a means area of each photo, that should be in same units. Very good, Swetanshu. Sir, remaining students also, if you feel this session is helpful, please share this session, sir. And we at IMS Gate Academy proudly say that we are continuing this series entire these 2 weeks to have a better experience for not only for civil engineering, for all the other branches also. Now, my dear students, here I would like to tell you one thing, sir. Suppose here capital A is nothing but what, sir, I told you? Capital A is nothing but ground area. What is capital A, sir? Ground area. And how do you calculate area of each photo? So here let me tell you, my dear students, here let me tell you what is the formula here we have to use. Suppose this is the ground area, and see students, if you take, this is the area of photo, okay. Now see students, these are the photos, okay. Here what we call is, one second, let me draw the diagram. Now see, my dear students, here what I would like to tell you here, see. Suppose this, we have this length, whatever we are having, this is called, what we call, sir? This we call it as longitudinal overlap, okay. Whatever this portion we are having here, this portion is called side overlap, okay. So my dear students, see, there is a concept in photogrammetry. Until unless if you want to see a 3D vision, sir, see, if you are going to a movie and you want to view a 3D view, you should wear the spectacles. Similarly, people should have 2 eyes to pursue the depth. If you close one eye, you cannot see the 3D view. Similarly, what happens in photogrammetry is, to have a better picture, there should be overlap of 2 photos. The overlap of 2 photos, we call it as model. Okay, sir? What is overlap of 2 photos? The overlap of 2 photos is called the model. Now see, in this model region only you can see the 3D view. Now see students, if I consider this as effective length of the photo and if I consider this as effective width of the photo. Now how do you calculate the area of the photo? Okay. Now see students, effective width of the photo can be written as length of the photo minus L into percentage of longitudinal overlap. What is PL, sir? PL is nothing but the percentage of longitudinal overlap. Here effective length can be taken as L into 1 minus PL. And remember, my dear students, this is in what units, sir? The photo which you have calculated, it is in photo units. We have to convert the photo units into ground units. So if we convert into ground units, effective length in ground units will be taken as L into 1 minus PL by S. This is the effective length of the photo. In case of what, sir? They can ask you this question also, sir. Remember my dear students, they can ask you directly this also. The effective length of the photo in ground units is L into 1 minus PL by S. And remember sir, again and again I am telling you, PL is nothing but the percentage of longitudinal overlap. What is PL sir? PL is nothing but the percentage of longitudinal overlap. And remember my dear students, what do you mean by PS? PS is nothing but the percentage of side overlap. Percentage of longitudinal overlap and percentage of side overlap. Similarly, what will be the effective width, sir? Effective width will be taken as W into 1 minus PS by S. So, this is the effective width of the photo in ground units, sir. In ground units, sir, whenever you are dividing with scale, that means it is ground units. Because scale can be written as photo coordinates upon ground coordinates. Using that, I have converted into ground coordinates. Now, what will be the final formula? Number of photos can be taken as A into S square upon L into 1 minus PL into W into 1 minus PS. Sir, there is another formula also. When to use that formula and when to use this formula, I will tell you very clearly, sir. This formula is applicable when ground area is given. Okay, sir? When this formula is applicable to when do you use this formula to calculate the number of photos? A key note you have to write is, when ground area is given, we can calculate the number of photos where capital A represents the ground area, S represents the scale, L is the length of the photo, W is the width of the photo, PL and PS is the percentage of longitudinal overlap, and PS is the percentage of side overlap. Now let me tell you my dear students here, what I would like to tell you. If, see here, if the length in the direction of flight is given, if the length in the direction of flight is given, and perpendicular to the direction of flight is given, and both are given. If the length in the direction of flight and perpendicular to the direction of flight, if the length and the perpendicular to the direction of flight both are given, okay sir, if the length and the perpendicular to the direction of the flight both values are given, then how do you calculate the number of photos? This can be the question. So here, if the length in the direction of flight and perpendicular to the direction of flight, there will be some questions from the students, sir. Sir, can I multiply with length into width and calculate the area and follow the first procedure? I would absolutely say wrong. This is absolutely wrong. See students, what you have to do in this procedure is, sir, this can be a direct question. What N1 is the, if they give you N1, what is N1? N1 is the number of photos. N1 is the number of photos in the direction of flight. What, sir? N1 is the number of photos. N1 is the number of photos in the direction of, N1 is the number of photos in the direction of flight. So, what is N1? How do you calculate number of photos in the direction of flight? This is given by, if I assume the length of the ground, capital L, is the length of the direction, the length of the ground in the direction of flight, then it is capital L, and the effective length of the photo is L into 1 minus PS by S plus 1. Okay. So, this is how you calculate the number of photos in the direction of flight. My dear students, are you following, sir? Can you quickly respond in the chat box? So, it will be an interactive session, students. If you fail any topic in surveying, if you find difficult, you can post in the chat box also. That formulas also I will be keep discussing. So, it is your time, my dear students. It is the time to utilize every minute. So, if you have any botherings in the surveying concept, Definitely you can mention in the chat box. If you really like this session, you can share this session to your friends. And this session, let me tell you students, after completing this session, you will have a better idea on understanding the concept of surveying. And tomorrow also I will be live on this topic on other part. So what will be the N1? Very good, Nirmal Nikhil, very good. N1 is the L into 1 minus PS by S plus 1. This is the number of photos in the direction of flight. Now, my dear students, there is another concept called N2. What do you mean by N2 is? N2 is nothing but the number of strips. Okay, not stirrups. N2 represents the number of strips. Here, what do you mean by N2 number of strips means? See students, if I consider this as a ground area, you will have a photos, this we call it as a strip. These are the photos in a strip, and how many strips we have, then you will get the total number of photos. So, number of strips will be calculated using width, sir. Okay, so here number of strips N2 can be taken as capital W into small w into 1 minus PS, that is side overlap upon scale, that is S plus 1. Very good, my dear students. So, my dear students, they need not to ask you calculate the number of photos. They can ask you what is the number of strips and what can be the number of photos in a strip. So, there can be 3 questions in this, my dear students. What is N2, sir? N2 is nothing but the number of strips. N1 is the number of photos in a strip. Now, how do you calculate the total number of photos is? Total number of photos can be calculated as N1 into N2. So, this is the formula. How do you calculate the total number of photos? I hope you can understand how to calculate the total number of photos. Very good, my dear student. Now, let us go into the next topic. Sir, see, actually we have crab. There is a concept called crab bump. See, when a flight is moving, due to the wind currents, there will be actually the photos should be like this. If you see, the overlap of photos should be like this. But due to drift, the photos will look like this. This we call it as drift. So, to avoid drift, there we introduce crab. What, sir? To avoid the drift, there is a concept called crab. What do you mean by crab means? It is the angle formed between the edges of the photograph and the flight path is known as crab. So, my dear students, these are the important formulas in photogrammetry. So, in a single shot, in single slide, we will cover all those things. So, first we have talking about scale, and in scale, what we have done, sir? We have 3 formulas, capital F upon capital H. This is case 1. In case 2, we have F upon H minus H, and we have F upon H minus H average. So, these are the important formulas, my dear students, related to scale. Next, we have discussed about relief displacement. Relief displacement is nothing but R2 into small h upon capital H, where capital H represents the flying height, R2 is the radial distance at top, delta R is the relief displacement, small h is the height of the tower. Now, my dear students, how do you calculate the number of photographs is? Number of photographs can be taken as ground area by small area, or you can write the formula as AS square upon L into 1 minus PL upon into W into 1 minus PS, where L and W indicates the length and width of the photo, PL and PS represents the percentage of longitudinal overlap and percentage of side overlap. And here, my dear students, N1 represents number of photos in a strip. So, how do you calculate is L into 1 minus PL by S plus 1, and the number of strips can be taken as N2 is equal to W upon W into 1 minus PS by S plus 1. Sir, always remember, usually notations, if I represent with capital means that is ground coordinates, if I represent in small means it is photo coordinates. And with this, we are done with the photogrammetry, all the formulas. Now, let us, sir, I am giving priority based on the topic weightage in the gate. Means there are some topics which are very important, so I am covering those topics initially. So, next topic we have is compass surveying. Next topic we have is what, sir? Compass surveying. Now, my dear students, what do you mean by compass surveying? It is a branch of surveying in which the direction of the survey lines are measured with the help of a compass and the lengths are measured using a chain or a tape. Are you agree, my dear students? What do you mean by compass surveying? It is a branch of surveying in which the directions are measured with the help of a compass and the lengths are measured using the chain or a tape. Now, we have one concept called, there are some important terms before going to the formulas. What is the important term here we have is meridian. What, sir? Meridian. Now, my dear students, when I talk about meridian, you might be knowing in coordinate system origin. Every point is placed with respect to origin. Similarly, what do you mean by meridian means? It is a fixed line of reference about which the angles are measured. What do you mean by meridian, my dear students? It is a fixed line of reference about which the angles are measured. That you call it as meridian. In meridian, we have true meridian, magnetic meridian, grid meridian, and arbitrary meridian. So these are the different types of meridians we have. So what do you mean by true meridian? A line joining true north and true south is nothing but true meridian. A line joining magnetic north and magnetic south is called magnetic meridian. Grid meridian means, usually grid meridian is followed in USM. You divide the entire area into grids. Suppose this is an area, sir. You divide this area into grids and you will take the central portion as reference and you will solve the problem. What do you mean by arbitrary meridian? Suppose if you are from Bangalore, if you are going through Majestic, you can take Majestic as a reference and do the survey. If you are going towards Vidhan Sauda or if it is Chinnaswamy Stadium, so based on this, you can take any prominent mark as a reference and you can do survey. That is arbitrary meridian. Now, my dear students, you are aware of the meridian concept. Now, similarly, we have a concept called bearing. What we have, sir? We have a concept called bearing. Now, my dear students, when I talk about bearing, sir, what do you mean by bearing, my dear students? What do you mean by bearing? Bearing is nothing but the angle between the meridian and the survey line. What do you mean by bearing? It is nothing but, bearing is nothing but the angle between the, bearing is nothing but the angle between the meridian, angle between the meridian and the bearing between angle between the meridian and the survey line is nothing but what, sir? Bearing. So here we have two things, sir. One is the bearing. So in bearing, you can have different types of bearings. One is true bearing, magnetic bearing. If it is with respect to true meridian, then it is true bearing. If it is with respect to magnetic meridian, magnetic bearing. With respect to arbitrary meridian, arbitrary bearing. With respect to grid meridian, grid bearing. So remember, my dear students, bearing is the angle between the meridian and the survey line. Okay, now my dear students, this is very, very important topic, sir. What is the topic here we have is whole circle bearing, and also we have, okay, sir, we have whole circle bearing and reduced bearing. Okay. Just give me a second, Amma. Now see, my dear students, here we have this, we call it as north, this we call it as south, this we call it as east, and this we call it as west. See, my dear students, here when I talk about whole circle bearing, how these things are given, just see the picture. Okay, this is A line, this is B line, this is C, and this is D. So here you can say this is alpha, beta, gamma and delta. This C and D. Now see students, this is how, sir, you should be aware of this concept. Here we have, this is called what, sir? Whole circle bearing. This is called what, my dear students? This is called as whole circle bearing. Now what do you mean by whole circle bearing, sir? Now what do you mean by whole circle bearing here? Sir, see students, whole circle bearing means bearing, sir, by seeing the diagram, sir, whenever you are solving the for problems in compass surveying, it is my sincere advice for every student of GATE to draw the diagram. That will help you a lot, okay? Now, what do you mean by whole circle bearing? It means every bearing of a line is measured in from north and also in clockwise direction. Bearing of a line is measured from north. Always it is measured from north and it is in clockwise direction. Here the bearing varies theta or alpha. Theta varies from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Are you following, my dear students? Everything is measured with north direction and also in clockwise direction. Remember, another important thing is prismatic compass is calibrated with whole circle bearing system. Remember, there can be a GATE question, sir. People have to understand this also, which is very important. Azimuthal system, if they used the word azimuthal system, remember, my dear students, azimuthal system or whole circle bearing system is same. Sir, if my guess is correct, there can be a question from compass surveying this year, sir. What do you mean by compass surveying? Means it is the bearing of a line measured with respect to north in clockwise direction. This system is also known as azimuthal system. It varies from 0 to 360 degrees. Prismatic compass is calibrated with this system, okay? Now, my dear students, if you talk about the next one we have is the reduced bearing. What, sir? Next one we have is the reduced bearing. Now, what do you mean by reduced bearing? Remember, we will discuss all these things once we have drawn the diagram. Sir, these diagrams will help you a lot, Amma. So, if I consider this as north, this as south, this as east and this as west. So, here we call it as alpha, here we call it as beta. Sir, this diagram itself will tell you all your answers, sir. This we call it as delta. Now, see students, in whole circle bearing, every bearing is measured from north and also in clockwise direction. But if you see in reduced bearing, the length bearing of a line is measured either from north or from south. Clockwise, see the arrow, sir, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever is nearer. This point is important. In reduced bearing, bearing of a line is measured either from north or from south, clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever is nearer. This is a very, very important point. Now see students, here the angle varies from, theta varies between 0 to 90 degrees. Here theta varies from where to where, sir? Here it varies from 0 to 90 degrees. That is the reason, my dear students, as it is varying between 0 to 90 degrees, reduced bearing is also known as quadral bearing or quadrant bearing. Reduced bearing is also known as quadrant bearing. Here again I am telling you, my dear students, surveying compass is calibrated with this system. Now let me clarify your doubts related to whole circle bearing and reduced bearing. In whole circle bearing, bearing of a line is measured from north only in clockwise direction. In reduced bearing, it is measured from north or south, either in clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever is nearer. These are very, very important. Reduced bearing is also known as quadral bearing and whole circle bearing is also known as azimuthal bearing. And my dear students, when I talk about whole circle bearing, prismatic compass is calibrated with this system, and this system is followed by surveyor compass. Now quickly we'll move on to the next important topic, that is fore bearing. What do you mean by fore bearing? And what do you mean by back bearing? Sir, these terms are very important. These terms are very important. What do you mean by fore bearing and what do you mean by back bearing, my dear students? Now see here, students, if I draw a line here, if I start drawing a line here, okay, if I consider this as a line, point A, and if I consider this as a point B, are you following, my dear students? This line, if you see here, if you see a line AB, what do you mean by fore bearing of line AB? This we call it as fore bearing of line AB. And this angle is taken as back bearing of AB. Okay. Now let me tell you, what do you mean by fore bearing? Fore bearing is the bearing of a line in the direction of survey. Back bearing is the bearing of a line opposite to the direction of survey. If it is in the direction of survey, then it is fore bearing. If it is opposite to the direction of survey, then it is back bearing. Now let us conclude some points here. Suppose, see students, if I consider fore bearing as alpha, if I consider this as fore bearing alpha, what will be the back bearing, sir? According to you, these are alternate angles, this and all. So back bearing is equal to fore bearing plus or minus 180 degrees. Sir, here plus sign is used when fore bearing is less than 180 and negative sign is used when fore bearing is greater than 180. Are you getting, my dear students? Back bearing is the bear. Sir, whenever you are learning the gate concepts, it is my sincere advice. You have to know the terms. What actually it means. Suppose here, what do you mean by fore bearing? It is the bearing of a line in the direction of survey. What do you mean by back bearing? It is the bearing of a line opposite to the direction of survey. So based on this, back bearing can be written as fore bearing plus or minus 180 degrees. Here positive sign is used when fore, or you can write here positive sign when fore bearing is less than 180 degrees and negative sign if fore bearing is greater than 180 degrees. Okay, so these are the formulas related to back bearing and fore bearing. Students, you have any doubts, you always feel free to message in the chat box. So, or are you looking for any specified topics? Also you can mention, okay? Definitely I'll help you. Now my dear students, how to find out the included angle? Sir, see, how to find out the included angle, okay? How to find out this included angle? Let me tell you with the diagram, sir. How do you find out the included angle? Now my dear students, suppose you have a line AB. This is a line AB. And suppose we have a line BC here. Now my dear students, there was a question from Nirmal or Nikhil or Swetanshu. How do you find out the angle B? Sir, they can ask you, how do you find out angle B? This can be a question from Nikhil or Swetanshu. So here, how do you find out angle B is, now my dear students, see this. If I consider this as fore bearing, if I consider this as a fore bearing, how do you calculate C? I'll show you. Now see students, this is back bearing of this one, and if I consider here, now see student, if I use back bearing of AB minus fore bearing of BC will give you the angle B, yes or no? So here from this diagram, angle B can be written as back bearing of AB minus fore bearing of BC. This is what you can write. But see students, let me write in a evident statement or conclusive statement. How do you write in a conclusive statement here is, see here. Sir, you can write included angle B can be written as back bearing of back bearing of preceding line minus back bearing of preceding line minus forebearing of succeeding line. What, sir? Back bearing of preceding line minus forebearing of succeeding line. You can write in this way, my dear students. Okay, any included angle, sir, back bearing of, very good, Shwetansh, very good answer. Back bearing of preceding line minus forebearing of succeeding line. This is how you calculate the included angle. Now here, my dear students, let me tell you how do you, sir, there can be a question here according to declination. So let me tell you very important thing, Amma. True bearing can be taken as, true bearing can be written as magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. What do you can write, sir? True bearing can be written as, true bearing can be written as magnetic bearing plus or minus so here this is very important, sir. True bearing can be written as magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. Sir, what do you mean by true bearing? Sir, it is the bearing with respect to true meridian. What do you mean by magnetic bearing is, it is the bearing with respect to, what, sir? It is the bearing with respect to the magnetic meridian. Remember, sir, at noon, usually at afternoon, the true bearing will be equal to 180 degrees. Okay, now see, students. Suppose if I consider this as a line, if the bearing is towards eastwards, here this is very, very important, sir. True bearing is equal to magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. Here if the declination, if you say declination is eastwards, if the declination is eastwards, we take positive. What, sir? We take the, here we have plus or minus, right? In this plus or minus, what I am trying to say is, if declination is towards eastwards, we take positive. Similarly, see, students, if declination is westwards, you take negative. Now, my dear students, I have a question. Sir, please follow this methodology only. Either solve this true bearing, magnetic bearing with respect to a diagram, or I don't know anything, I want to solve the answer means, every time please remember this note, student. If they have given the value in reduced bearing, convert the reduced bearing into whole circle bearing, and you will get the final answer also in whole circle bearing. Then you convert into reduced bearing, you will get the right answer. Sir, is the theory of error important? If not, please include the topic also in this lecture. Sir, error, Nikhil, error, chain survey and all, tomorrow I will be discussing. Don't worry about that. I have my errors, I have my, those things are in my mind. We have another session tomorrow also, part 2. So, in that session I will cover. Okay, very good question. And Nikhil, whatever I have told you today, try to follow those things. I will keep a note of it. But anyhow, they are in my mind. Tomorrow I will be get back. Is it okay, Nikhil? Now see, students. True bearing is equal to magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. If the declination is towards eastwards, we take it as positive. If the declination is westwards, we take it as negative. The important note I would like to tell you, my dear students, is whenever these kind of problems are asked, always convert them into whole circle bearing. Get the final answer also in whole circle bearing. Then you convert into reduced bearing if the options are in reduced bearing. Now here we have two lines, Amma. One is called isogonic line, and another thing is called agonic line. Okay, sir? We have two terms. One is isogonic, and there can be a multiple select questions or anything, sir. Isogonic means a line joining points of same declination. Whenever the word iso came means same. What do you mean by agonic line? Mean a line joining points of zero declination. A line joining points of equal declination are isogonic, and a line joining Zero declination are agonic lines. Mariners call declination as variation. Amma. We have two things like, sir, see, we have different things like three things. What I would like to tell you. Suppose there can be a question asked. What do you mean by diurnal variation? What do you mean by circular variation? What do you mean by annular variation? If it is a diurnal variation, it is a variation in 24 hours. If it is an annual variation, it's a variation in 1 year. If it is a secular variation, it's a variation in 250 years. So this is all about the variations and declination. Now, my dear students, let me tell you the another important concept. What is the other important concept I would like to tell you here is, sir, very, very important, okay. Now, when do you say that local attraction has happened? This is very, very important, sir. Sir, due to the influence of magnetic materials. What, sir? Due to the influence of the magnetic materials, there can be a local attraction. Am I correct or wrong, my dear students? So, due to the influence of the magnetic materials, there can be a local attraction. Here, see students, if back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180 degrees. Sir, here I am telling you the condition when there will be back bearing and when there will be fore bearing. If back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180, you can say that there is no local attraction. If back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180 degrees, then there can be no local attraction. Sir, what is actually local attraction means? The readings taken from that stations will not be correct. That is what local attraction. What happens due to the influence of the magnetic materials near to the needle gets deviated, sir. So here, suppose, my dear students, if back bearing minus fore bearing, if I have taken two stations, sir, if I have taken two stations AB, if back bearing minus fore bearing is not equal to 180 degrees, what, sir? If back bearing minus fore bearing is not equal to 180 degrees, then this is very important. Station A can affect. Station A can affect. Station A can only affect. B can affect, or both A and B can affect. So see, this is a very important, student. There was a previous year gate question also asked in this, sir. Based on the back bearing and fore bearing values, by finding the difference between back bearing and fore bearing values, you can understand which station has been affected. So from this, if the back bearing minus fore bearing is not equal to 180, station A can affect, station B can affect, or station both A and B can affect. Next, my dear students, we have a concept called well-conditioned triangle. What, sir? We have a concept called well-conditioned triangle. Now here, what do you mean by well-conditioned triangle, sir? What do you mean by well-conditioned triangle? See here, if theta value is between 30 degrees to 120 degrees, if any one of the angle is between 30 to, all the angles should be between 30 to 120. It cannot be less than 30 or it cannot be more than 120. Then we call it as well-conditioned triangle. The best well-conditioned triangle is nothing but the equilateral triangle. What is the best well-conditioned triangle, my dear students? The best well-conditioned triangle is nothing but the equilateral triangle. Is it clear, sir? Yes. Now, what happens if theta is not less than, if theta is, yes, sir. If, theta not less than 30 and theta not more than 120. Absolutely correct, Swetanshu. If suppose, if theta is less than 30 degrees and theta is greater than 120 degrees, then we call it as ill-conditioned triangle. Then we call it as what, sir? Ill-conditioned triangle. So, my dear students, if the theta, any one of the bearing is between 30, so all the bearings should be 30 to 120, then it is well-conditioned. Equilateral triangle is the best well-conditioned triangle. If the theta is less than 30 degrees or theta greater than 120 degrees, then we call it as ill-conditioned triangle. Now, my dear students, there is another important concept called dip. What, sir? Dip. What do you mean by dip? Sir, see, Sir, dip is nothing but the inclination of magnetic needle with respect to the horizontal. What do you mean by dip? I just want to tell you the definition, sir. It is the inclination of the magnetic needle with respect to the horizontal. Dip value will be equal to 0 degrees at equator and dip value will be equal to 90 degrees. Dip value will be equal to 90 degrees at poles. So these are the values of dip. And here also, my dear students, a line joining same amount of dip is known as isoclinic line. What, sir? Iso means it is nothing but same. When you say a line joining points of same declination, it is isoclinic. A line joining points of 0 declination, we call it as eclinic. Okay. So here what do you mean by dip, my dear students? Dip is nothing but the inclination of the magnetic needle with respect to the horizontal. Now let us conclude all the formulas here, sir. In whole circle bearing is also known as what, sir? Azimuthal system. Here theta varies from 0 to 360 degrees. Everything is measured from north. In reduced bearing, this is also called as quadral bearing. Sir, here everything is measured in clockwise. Here it is measured in clockwise or anti-clockwise. Here it is varies from 0 to 90 degrees. Here surveyor compass is calibrated. Here prismatic compass is calibrated. Sir, you have to know, if you want to know how to convert whole circle to reduced bearing, just draw the diagram. And one more thing, students, this is very, very important point. True bearing is equal to magnetic bearing plus or minus declination. Positive sign is used when the declination is eastwards and negative sign is used when the declination is westwards. How do you find the included angle, sir? How do you find the included angle? Can anyone tell, my dear students? Included angle can be told. Can you find out the included angle? Can anyone tell me, sir? It is nothing but the back bearing of the preceding line minus fore bearing of succeeding line. Back bearing of preceding minus fore bearing of succeeding. Here P indicates preceding, S indicates succeeding. And remember, my dear students, back bearing is equal to fore bearing plus or minus 180 degrees. Here, my dear students, let me tell you, if fore bearing is less than 180, we use positive sign. If the fore bearing is more than 180, you will use negative sign. For a theta value should be 30 degrees to 120 degrees for a well-conditioned triangle. And the best well-conditioned triangle is nothing but the equilateral triangle. And the last one is, if back bearing minus fore bearing is equal to 180 degrees, then you can say that there is no local attraction. Okay, with this, today I am done with the surveying smart revision, sir. My dear students, if you are looking for the notes or if you are looking for the updates in the YouTube channel, then definitely there is a link in the description. Please click on that link. Definitely you can join in the Telegram group. All the updates will be posted in the Telegram group. And we at IMS Gate Academy proudly say that we are running the offline gate coaching at Bangalore and Vijayawada. At Bangalore, we are running at Jayanagar office. If you have any queries, you can visit our Jayanagar office and inquire with us. And we are providing 800 plus hours of live gate coaching and also offline gate coaching. We are giving the subject-wise materials, exercise book which contains level 1, level 2, level 3 questions. In addition to this, we are providing the all 30 years previous year gate questions and solutions with the key pointers. We are providing one-to-one mentorship, which is the key success for IMS Gate Academy. And in addition to that, we are providing the doubt solving portal. So what are you waiting for? If you want to quickly revise all your concepts in civil engineering, then definitely join our IMS Gate Academy YouTube channel. You will have all the latest updates. Thank you for watching and all the best for Gate 24. Thank you.